Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time. Hi, welcome back to Downsizing Roadmap. I'm Jody Roscoe.
And I'm Heather Fisher.
And today we're going to be talking about photos.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
The topic everyone wants to know. What do I do with all of my photos, my own and all the ones from grandma's house and mom's house and all the family photos?
I think, when we hold our classes, this is just, we have a page that has all of the things that are hard on it, the ones that you don't want to start with when you start going through your stuff. And photos is definitely one of those because you can get lost down a road with photos. But when we do that, people always, we tell them pick one or two topics and we'll talk about them. And photos is almost always one of them.
Yes, everybody wants to know.
Yep. And so personally, I have all of my own photos, all of my mom's photos, all of my grandma's photos. They're in a room in my house because when my mom and grandma passed away so close together, when we had to clean out the house, I just had to put them somewhere because I couldn't leave them out and look at them because they upset me. Because there's very strong emotions with photos, right? So now they're living in this room that needs to be gone through. And it's something that I just need to have, get a habit around and just do a little bit of it at a time. But it's hard. Sometimes it brings up a lot of emotions. Yeah. And sometimes not. Sometimes it's like, why are all these dumb pictures of all of these things?
Yeah.
So it's a combo of what is all this nonsense that we don't need? And then, I remember this, so there's it's kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I come from a place personally where thankfully my mom has done a lot of this hard work. So I will reap the benefits of
Thanks, Mom.
Inheriting
my mom did none of it.
organized photos and labeled and all of that. So I'll share some successes that I'm very happy about to be, bringing down through our family. My mom has done a lot of this hard work, but the end result is, fabulous. So we can talk about some ideas and some strategies, and then we'll help you get through it, Jody.
Yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, I will talk a little bit about what I think I need to do as we go along. But my mom was really into genealogy, and so she loved learning about history and about the people, but her brain wasn't an organized brain. It was a right brain, creative brain, and so all the pictures are just kind of a mix mash in boxes and whatever. And then all my grandma's pictures too. So let's talk just a little bit about that. So why is it so hard?
I think people think that they're letting go of the people or they're going to lose the memories if they get rid of any of the photos.
Right. They represent love, your identity, your past, all kinds of really strong emotional feelings, family.
Yeah.
And legacy, what does that look like? So
and that ancestry along with legacy, that family tree is most easily represented going backwards by photos.
Right. Well, and you in your head, you're like, wonder what they looked like, especially as you go back, or you can see that family resemblance as you kind of go back and look at pictures, and that's kind of fun and interesting. So, and then also it's hard because people feel guilty letting them go or throwing them away. They just think they need to keep it all, which is usually not possible. And don't even get me started with the ones that aren't digital. We're really talking today about printed photos because digital photos has created an entirely different giant behemoth to try to deal with.
There is definitely a challenge there to deal with, and we can deal with that on a future episode. Right now, the paper photos are not only have the same feelings around dealing with them, but physically they take up space.
Right.
And we are talking about
maybe
reducing how much space you have and how to deal with that. So it's something that needs to be tackled because there's not a daily practical use of the photos. And if your space is limited, you don't want to just be surrounded by the boxes.
Yeah. And I also think it's hard because people don't want to get started on it. There's not an obvious place to start. Maybe it feels overwhelming. And so it's one of those tomorrow projects,
Yeah.
Because in fairness, I haven't organized my photos for my kids and all of that stuff either. So, I'm giving my mom a hard time, but that, I did not learn that skill from her, and I have not done it myself either. And so, as with everything, there needs to be a system.
Yeah.
I mean, just with everything, if you have a system and you know what that looks like, you can do it from the beginning. If you didn't do it from the beginning, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of stuff that then you have to kind of create a system around to make it work.
Yeah. I think the good news is, in my experience or in my mind, the first level of going through them is not necessarily hard itself. You talk about this in our class a lot, that if you just decide to go through them once without that decision on people, you can eliminate a whole lot of photos that don't have people or places personally important to you.
Yeah.
And you might have a lot less overwhelm if you see how much it can be reduced in that first round. So do we want to talk about some of those easy things to get rid of?
Yeah. So there's a 5-step plan. There's kind of just back to the system.
Yeah.
5-step plan. So step 1 is to gather everything that you have together from all over the house, wherever you've tucked it, whatever that looks like, which is really the same when you're organizing anything in your house. Like if you have batteries in 6 or 7 places, like you don't even know, like just put everything all together and then you're like, oh wow, I have way too many batteries.
Right.
But same thing for pictures. Grab them, if you have boxes somewhere or in the basement, something in the attic, something in a closet, whatever that looks like, bring them all together because you're going to tackle this project, right? So bring them all together somewhere, albums, loosely printed ones, shoeboxes full of them, whatever that looks like. Yeah. And you can even do digital ones if you want to, but I would start with just the printed ones. I feel like that's an easier thing to do, and then you can go from there and use that same system on your digital ones. But so bring everything together. Just doing that can be a little eye-opening and emotional of like, oh my gosh, like you have all this, like it's a lot. But it gets you started. It's all in one space, and then make yourself like a little photo zone. Like, okay, here's what my project is. And when you were saying that, I was starting to, if I'm watching TV, I might just grab a couple, little box of them and start to go through them a little bit one at a time. So,
yeah, if at all possible, when you're doing a project like this, where the full scope of the project is going to take more than one session, my advice around that would be, if you can, have a space for the project to live where you could still shut the door or move away from it back to your daily activities.
Right.
If you are going to need the kitchen table for dinner later that night, don't start this giant project.
I agree.
On the kitchen table, if at all possible, if you have somewhere else to do that, so that you can say, okay, I've put in my hour or my 10 minutes or whatever, and, shut the door, or at least move to the other space where you're going to do the rest of your day.
Yep.
So that you don't have to stack up all the piles you've sorted and keep unpacking and packing up the project. Sometimes that's not possible, but if it is, find a space that you could work in, a guest room or, somewhere where it can rest and stay until you finish the full project. For mine,
that is where they reside. They reside in, a little room that has a desk in it. And so they're kind of all, I have gotten through the gathering part and put them together. And then I do pull them out. Sometimes I don't necessarily want to sit in that room, pull out a little bit, and then I do put it back. Like I don't leave it out in my family room on the coffee table, like mocking me as I'm not
those
doing
evil
mocking
photos
me.
mocking you.
So I do, sort and then put back what I'm want to keep.
Yeah.
And then, do a little bit the next day and, or I don't know, a week or two later. Like I'm not in a good pattern of just kind of marching through it yet. So I personally need to listen to ourselves and do all of these things. But okay, so number one, you're just going to put them all together. And then step number 2 is you're going to sort with a system, right? So you're going to create a system to sort it. And that system can be mostly it's by time, like is it year, decade, whatever that looks
event.
Like, or event, or person, or pet, or whatever, whatever that looks like. So you can either do it by some kind of a time or event, kind of increment, or by who it is.
Yeah.
And you want to make 4 piles. So you're going to make keep, scan, share, or discard. So keep might be something that you want to frame, like something that you're going to frame. Some of them you may just want to scan and let go of the picture.
Yeah.
Some of them you're going to want to give to other people. Like sometimes they're great photos, but they're not of people that you need lots of photos of, but maybe they're your cousins and you want to give them to your cousins, or whatever that looks like, or their mom, it's your aunt and you have a couple pictures of your aunt, but that's their mom, so you want to share that.
I think that organization is such a gift when you can give someone a manageable group of photos of people or events that are important to them. That's such a nice way to gift.
Yeah. So what I find is that when I'm doing it, I'm just taking pictures that aren't even good pictures of the pictures, but just so that like I can send it in the family group chat to be like, oh my gosh, do you remember this? Like, and it's fun to just see them hear their emotions, or hear their exclamations about it, or be like, oh my God, that was so long ago, or whatever that is. So
look at my hair.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm so little. What is that face? All the things that they say about it. And so I will say, I think if you can, like, bring your family in to do it. Like,
we just talked to someone recently that had lost a family member, and they were telling us how in going through all of their family members' things, but the photos, they had a couple times, they had siblings in different locations across the country, and they had flown in intentionally for a weekend. Yeah. We could do an Airbnb or someone's house or whatever, but they had intentionally spent the weekend going through the photos, have some wine, tell the stories around them. And it's much easier. Number one, you have that reinforcement to sort through. Right. You're not doing it alone, but all of those stories are being shared. And different people can take different photos that resonate with them in different ways, or are, a closer memory for them. And then it's much easier to let go of amounts of photos when you don't need all of them, because you now have that memory of that shared weekend or shared evening, which is exactly what life is about. All those memories around the stories of the photos is more important than a box of things you don't look at every day. So things like that are an amazing way to handle the sorting, if that's a possibility. Yeah, for sure. And so what Heather was alluding to before is when I was sorting pictures, you end up with, especially all the pictures that we printed, you end up with doubles and triples, because when we printed them, we always got the doubles or the triples, right? So we don't need 3 of them or 2 of them. So there's half the pictures, or, more already just gone because they're the same pictures. So, and then you end up with a lot of pictures of, not people. Yeah. And if you had some amazing trip or something and you want to keep a few of those pictures to remind you, if you're putting together something that is of that trip or whatever, that's fine. But, we took pictures, Mom took pictures of, the beach over and over again. She loved when we went to
she loved just historical buildings. I was saying she liked genealogy. She just liked history. And so there would be lots of pictures of old buildings just because she liked the old building when she was walking by it. And it doesn't really resonate in the story of what that's telling, you know? And then you said your mom always took pictures of the animals at the zoo.
Well, my mom loves the zoo, so many trips to the zoo growing up, the Columbus Zoo, and every animal. But, you know, cameras weren't as great as they are now, and my mom was not a professional photographer, so...
The zebra from that's like a speck in the picture.
You can't zoom like we can on our phones, so they're not great photos. But I do think it is a technology, different generation, that if you went on vacation somewhere and you didn't have the internet to just Google Charleston, South Carolina buildings, that was your way
of remembering
and being able to show someone else or whatnot. But that time has passed for things that are not your family, and people in them that are important to you. You know, there are photographers much better than any of us that you can Google in seconds, whatever it is you want to see, or whatever animal, all of that.
So you're going to be able to let go of a lot of it, and there won't be emotional stuff around it. And then, you know, digital photos are a whole different thing, because now we can take as many pictures as we need to till we get the right thing. Back then, you had your 12 roll, your 24 roll, you know, maybe 36 roll, but you took a picture, you know, there was 12 or 24 pictures of your birthday party, and you cannot promise that anybody looks great in any of those pictures, right?
Oh, I remember that moment of getting the packet, like, couldn't even wait to get home. It was like as soon as you hit the car, opening it up and flipping through really quick. Like, oh my gosh, I hope there's good ones.
And somebody's eyes are closed, or there's your thumb over the thing, or you know, it's blurry or whatever. So then there's a whole bunch of those that you can actually let go of. So sorting is, you're really going to get down to less pictures than you think. And so you really should not keep any picture that you wouldn't frame. Like, it should be good enough that you would frame. Because if you're thinking about, like, I want a picture memory of a person in your life, maybe who's passed away, and so you have all of their pictures. Like, I have all of my grandma's pictures. So if I was going to create a photo book of her whole life, like, you maybe need, 50 pictures of her whole life, right? And it would still show her growing up. It would show her as little, and if we have many pictures of that, as we go back in time, there's less pictures of all of that. But you just don't need them all. You just need the really good ones. So if you were going to make a book of that, you just would want 50 spectacular pictures of capturing her at time points in her life, right? So that's what you're trying to, when you sort, that's what you're sorting down to. You're sorting down to just like, oh, this is such a great picture of her when she was 20. This is such a great picture of her when she was 40.
Or shows the person doing the things that demonstrate that legacy. And you're the one who knows that legacy. And so thinking about, how do I want to portray this to the next generation or the next that might not have met this person? How are you representing that?
It would be so great if I could find a picture of her cooking, or making homemade noodles, or all, one of the things that homemade cookies that are the things that I remember her for. That would be amazing. Maybe that's in there. Maybe I can find it.
I know. I think
now
I
want to start looking at that. So when you sort, you might be surprised at how much you can sort down to, and maybe some of that overwhelm you can let go of some of that overwhelm just in the fact that you're getting down to really only the good pictures. And so I would put them in a box or some kind of an organization, just as a holding place, by year or by person or whatever that looks like. Just so as you're sorting through them, you can be like, oh, these are all my grandma, or these are all from 1980 to 1990, or whatever that looks like.
I think that sorting phase does not need to be the decision-making phase. They're two totally different.
The decision is it a good picture or not?
Or does it have anybody, or is it a thumb, or
or
a giraffe,
does it Is it was it some amazing trip that we went on that I want a picture of a couple of these things or whatever? But
then you can go through that category as a whole, and pick the best of the best, and not be going through random one picture at a time from mismatched events, and trying to figure that out.
Yep. Okay. So that's sorting. Step 2. Step 3 is to store or to scan it. So you can digitize all the photos. So we can say, okay, I'm done. Like, I got them sorted. I wrote the name on the back of it of who everybody is, because I'm finding that's a problem as you go along, especially with my grandma's photos. Like, I don't know everybody, and I know a lot of people. So in the family as we go back, because that was something that happened in my family. My grandma would get out her pictures every once in a while and be like, okay, this is this person and this is this person, and tell us stories about them, because that really is what the photos are about. Like, it's the stories.
Absolutely.
And so make sure that you write on the back of it what that was, or if there was a special trip where you went and what year that was, or write on them what that is. But that can be the end of it. It can be like, there's the box, and we get out the box every once in a while and go through it and look at them. Or you could digitize them, and we have people who can do that. There are companies who can do that. So if you Google online, there are companies that you can send your photos away to, and they will digitize them and send them back. We also have local people that can do that, and I'm sure wherever you are, there are local people that can do that as well. And so that's an option too. So you could have them put onto a drive or something like that, where you can put them to your TV. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. You could put them to a digital picture frame where it goes through and shows them. You can Apple TV. You can put all of your pictures up on the TV and have it kind of rotate through the pictures so that you're able to see them. The digital frames are kind of cool because your family can send them to you too.
Yeah, we have those both. My mom and my husband's mom, and it's, I know both of them enjoy and comment, and, as we're over there talking, I'll be like, oh, wait,
there's a new one.
There's that photo or whatever. And, it's a great way to connect and to see many more photos without the clutter of needing surfaces for so many picture frames.
Right. Or you could do like Shutterfly or one of those places. You could do a book where you upload the pictures and you create a photo book that might be the year, it might be the event, it might be just somebody's whole photo book of their life. You can do that too. So you can create photo books. I think this is
a great time too, if you've got teenage grandchildren or teenagers, young adults in your life, if you've gotten through some of these first steps of sorting, and then you say, I would like a photo book of this vacation, or I would like a digital photo frame uploaded with this pile of photos. Outside of the companies that will do that for the next generations, younger and more tech savvy than us, it's a fairly easy project. So that's a great time to throw in, the people in your life that could help you once you've gotten to the sorting. If you're overwhelmed with, I don't know how to make this happen,
and have them do it for you, or you could kind of do it together as like a little project, because it's gotten much easier. When Shutterfly first came out, or all those companies first came out, you had to make your book basically like scrapbooking, because you could do that too. You could do physical albums. You can do, just be careful how many there are, right? But you could do physical albums, and but you had to create them like physical albums. Take the picture, put it over there, size it, and do all the things. Now you can just upload a group of pictures, and it will actually throw them into a book for you in different sizes and different places, and then you can move them around and do all the things. But that's where the teenager comes in, or whatever, is they can help you move it easily and write some things in the book about it, and it could be a fun little project.
Absolutely.
All right, so digitizing them, and then you could let them go. I know that scares people. They're like, what might happen? But we have tons of digital photos that we don't even have printouts of now. And so there are ways to do backups, and you can talk to somebody about that. If they're scanning your photos, ways that you can have a backup of those photos or put them somewhere else. But yeah.
And digitizing them also does make it easier to share.
For sure.
With other family members.
Yes.
In those ways. There are lots of websites that have, kind of a shared repository where multiple family members in different states or different areas can all contribute and see photos. So in one way, it makes it much more widespread on who sees the photos and talks about the stories. And
if you're semi-tech, you can buy a photo scanner. They're not that expensive.
Yeah.
And just scan them yourself. It's almost basically like a copy machine.
Yeah.
Except it just scans them.
Takes a better image.
Things, again, get your teenager over and teach you how to use it. But it really isn't hard. It really isn't hard.
Right.
And you don't scan every picture. Do not skip the sorting and just start scanning. So you do not have to scan everything. Focus on your top 100 pictures that are the legacy pictures of, and scan those, and don't skip the sorting and just delay that decision and create a big project for yourself.
Yeah. That first step of the loose sorting is the most important, because you can't get mired in finding one treasured photo and skipping ahead to how am I going to preserve this?
Yeah.
And then you end up doing that to way too many photos because you've moved on and stopped sorting.
Right. So be a little brutal in the sorting process. I think that's where that is, and then you will end up with a couple boxes, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's what Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff said. You should be able to
pick it up and take it with you.
Pick it up and take it with you, like in one armload. You can, like 2 shoebox sizes, maybe it was two or
like
3
that,
shoebox sizes. So
you don't need as many as you think, or need all of those. So, so step 4 then is share the love. So this is what we've been talking about is how, mail some to your family members, or create digital albums, or any of that stuff. And I was finding that I kind of combined step 1, or step 2, the sorting, with the sharing, the step 4, sharing the love, because I think as you're sorting, you get that kind of surprise, like, oh, look at that, or oh my gosh, we were here, or remembering a Christmas holiday, or a vacation or something like that, or even just some little outfit that they wore that was cute or something. I don't know. It just reminds you of things, memories that happen, because again, that's what the pictures are all about. It's all about the stories.
Yeah.
And so think about that as you're trying to archive some of them. Like, the idea is to create a visual story of your life, right?
Yeah.
With the photos. And so maybe you want to write the story too at the same time. And what an amazing gift of a book that would make. Like, here are my 25 favorite pictures, and this is why, or something, and just write the stories of that. If you're creative like that, I think that would be super cool. But like I was saying before, sometimes they're pictures that you don't need. They're pictures of other family members, and you want to share them. Or if everybody wants them, then we need to digitize them so that you can share them that way.
Yeah. My mom, when she went through all the photos at their house, she created, it was a actual photo album,
Mm-hmm.
but she created an album for myself, and I have 2 siblings, so for each of us, but they were very personalized.
Mm-hmm.
Like, mine was the photos that she had sorted out for me from my childhood. But one thing she did at the front of the album is that she went back a couple generations. She had been going through a lot of photos that she had gotten from my dad's family. They ended up with the boxes at their house, and that was a lot of what she was going through. And she had photos from her parents And for each of us, she went back a couple generations, labeled like in like a family tree style, like page 1, here's your couple generations on your dad's side and on, my side, and names and all of that, which is amazing. I love that, because if I later on down the road, I didn't have my grandparents, didn't have any great-grandparents in my life, and didn't have my grandparents past a fairly young age, and I wouldn't know how to label all of that. And so back to that ancestry and that legacy, just having those couple generations back of exactly, their names and dates and who they were on the family tree is amazing. So that's one thing that you can do without handing over a disorganized box.
Right.
But you're doing that organization, and I didn't need 100 pictures of each of them.
Right.
It was, here's 1 or 2.
My Nana did the exact same thing. So for my dad and his 2 brothers, when they were moving to Florida, so they were downsizing, she took all the pictures and did the same thing. She spread them out. Some of them have all of them in them, but some of them are just them. So they are their own albums, but it still had the family and Christmases and different, different things. And each of them got 1 album for their whole growing up, right?
Yeah.
And it was great. And she wrapped them up and gave them to him for Christmas. And it was the coolest thing. I think we spent a couple hours on those albums, like everybody looking at them and pointing to, holding up their ones and remember this. And it was an amazing gift. It was a super cool gift.
Yeah. When it's manageable, it's enjoyable to revisit it too.
Yeah.
Because you can.
It's a quick, it's not like 500 pictures of today and 500 pictures of tomorrow, right? It's a quick breeze through all of it.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have, we have in our life, which is super cool. We go to New Hampshire every summer, and it's a place that my Nana's parents and my great-grandparents started. And so my Nana grew up there, and my dad and his brothers grew up there every summer, and my Nana took me there every summer, and we've taken our kids there every summer. So it's a super cool place. And my great-grandpa was extremely organized. He was one of those ones, I think his favorite thing in life was the little machine that the tape thing, and you pressed it and it put the letters out.
Oh yeah, the old label makers.
The label maker, where it was like
embossing
squeezed it, and he did it with everything. But what he did was, for a lot of years, he did a summer camp album, and so they're labeled with the label maker every year, and they go back to there's ones in the 1920s and the 1930s, and 1930s probably. I think we're coming up on 100 years of them having that place, which is cool. But old pictures, and he labeled everybody that was in it and who had been there that summer, and it's super cool because it's a summer place.
I think that's so key, because that's the difference between a legacy gift and a disorganized, delayed decision guilt gift. I mean, truly, I'm sure your family all treasures that, and in some form or fashion, it will live on because it was done in that legacy fashion.
Yeah.
And so your grandpa doing that for you was such a legacy gift versus a burden of disorganization.
Right,
so
just a box of pictures. We probably wouldn't look at a box of pictures.
Yeah.
And exactly what you were saying earlier is that because it's organized in a way that's easy to understand, each summer as you go along, I could easily pick out the first summer I got there, right? Because I knew what year that was, and I could easily pick that out. Or I could be I want to go look at what, Nana's life here as a baby or little kid was, and I can go look at that. So having it organized like that and easy to look at.
I mean, you picture, those family conversations where, you're with your cousins or whatever. Oh, were you here that summer? No, you weren't here. That was the next year. That's your family resource for those conversations and to support that and to bring back the stories. Like, what was that restaurant we went to? And you can go dig through that, and what a family joy that comes around it because he spent the time to make it a legacy of your family story of those summers. I love that so much.
It was it's pretty cool. It's very cool. So you can do really amazing things and tell the story with the pictures. I think that's the general gist of it.
Yeah.
The idea of the pictures is to help you illustrate the story, because the story is the part that's important.
Yes.
Just like everything else, the stuff has to have a story. The pictures are telling the story, and they can't do it all by themselves, because you may end up with pictures of people that you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point, those pictures probably just need to go.
Yeah.
I know people get like, well, I can't throw it away. But number 5 is let go without guilt. That's the 5th step.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know who they are, ask your family, go, hey, send a picture. Who's this? Do we all remember? If we've gotten to a place where we've lost that history, then it's time to let that picture go.
Yeah. And it's a good place. We were talking with someone else that was talking about photos, and they had like a lot of pictures of I think it was their mom, maybe their dad, with that person's coworkers.
Right.
So there was no importance or legacy for, the person we were talking to. So if you have the opportunity that you still know someone in that group, pass it on with they can take it or leave it. But you don't have to preserve every moment. Those are the places where you can let that go without guilt. It's not part of your story.
Right. Right. Yeah. Let it go. And it doesn't mean you're letting go of the person. You know, I think that people just start hanging on to it because it feels like if you're throwing away the picture, you're letting go of the person. You're not letting go of the person.
Yeah.
You have those legacy pictures that you've kept. You have the ones that you know are great pictures. So let that. You just have to let it go. Be kind to yourself on it. But you're not erasing the history. You're curating a legacy, right? You're just curating those pictures that tell the story.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to put it, for sure.
So let's go over the 5 steps again real quick. So we're going to gather everything together. We're going to sort it with the system, and we're going to be pretty brutal about the sorting.
Yeah.
But use that system, and then we're going to store or scan them. Maybe you make a photo wall, maybe you make a book, whatever it is that you do with that. Maybe you send them to the photo frame, and then we're going to share them with whoever needs to share them. Yeah. And then we're going to let go of whatever we need to let go of without guilt.
Yeah. And end up with no more than what we can hold in our arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And maybe you've made your kids books, or you've made your kids disk drives that have, pictures on them, or whatever that looks like when you're sharing them. So everybody gets to share in the joy of those pictures.
Yeah.
And you won't have a whole room like I do full of pictures right now. So
yes,
I'll keep you posted on how that's all going for me.
And I'll coach you from the sidelines and make sure you're spending those 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll let y'all know when I'm down to my 2 boxes of pictures.
It's definitely a big project. So again, starting early with a plan and a system, and then doing that daily habit around it can move you over the hump of getting started and getting to the finish line in slow progress over time is much easier than facing, the moving truck is coming next week and I need to go through this mountain of photos.
I think too, if you're just really keeping in mind that you are curating that legacy, and you're just trying to create almost like artistically, like a vision of something, either the event or the person's life or their childhood or whatever, Nana was doing their childhood when she gave them those books. But if you're what your goal is with the photos, you can let go of more, because you don't really need all of them
Yeah.
to create that.
Yeah. You're creating a gift with it.
Yeah. So good luck with your photos. We'd love to hear how it's going. Reach out to us at downsizingroadmap.com. If you have questions, let us know. We're happy to talk to you about any of it.
Yeah, and I love this quote you found, to always remember that downsizing your stuff doesn't mean downsizing your story. So you're just curating your story.
Yeah, and making sure you have the story to share later, and people get that story. That's the key. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, we will see everyone again next week.
Yep, see you next time.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Visit us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.